My only point is saying this because I want to get back to why we're here. Uh, the press has not treated these incredible people who've done such a great job. They haven't treated them fairly. They're way off. We were way ahead of schedule. And remember this, because the Times story was a fake, but remember this, everything we did, I was criticized because I was too early. If I waited longer, it would have been, you would have been criticized. If I went way early, if I went 3 months earlier, I would have been criticized for being way too early. So with all of that being said, we understand it. I think I've educated a lot of people as to the press. And I would love to be able to say that we have a very honest press. Honestly, John, there'd be nothing I would be more proud of if the press would work. And I don't mind being criticized, but not when they're wrong. Not when people have done a great job. Yes?
Can I ask you about the video? So I've never seen a video like that played in this room. It looks a bit like a campaign ad. Who produced that video for you?
That was done by a group in the office, and it was done we just put some clips together. I could give you, I'll bet you I have over 100 more clips, even better than them. They were just pieced together over the last 2 hours.
Okay.
That was just, we have far better than that. That's nothing compared to some of them.
This was produced here in the White House.
Yeah, this was done by Dan and a group of people, and they just put it together in a period of probably less than 2 hours.
Why did you feel a need to do that?
Because we're getting fake news, and I like to have it corrected. Everything we did was right. If we would have closed down...
Mistakes along the way here? You think everything you did was right?
Well, look, governors should have had ventilators. They chose not to have them. We were able to get them ventilators. You haven't heard, other than, there was a lot of panic, a lot of screaming. We want ventilators. They got the ventilators. You don't have that anymore. And the surge is supposed to be coming now. And if they do need ventilators, John, we've got almost 10,000 that are ready to rock. We have people standing with those ventilators right now. If you needed 2,000 in New York, which you don't, but if you did, we can have them here in less than 24 hours. We're ready to rock. This was a great military and beyond that operation. Let's get back to the regular. Well, shouldn't we get back to the regular? We could talk about this, but all I'm doing is this. I could have given you, like those are 4 or 5 clips that we just played for you. I could have given you hundreds of people. I mean, Gavin was on television 2 days ago with one of your competitors, singing praise. He says, look, the question was asked in a negative way. He said, look, I know what you want to say, but he's been really good. It's hard for me to say that. In fact, it's impossible for me to say. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. I have many clips I have some clips from Anthony that I didn't want to put up, which were really good. I think Anthony would be the first one to say, when I closed the country to China, when I closed the China ban, whatever you want to call it, Anthony said I saved a lot of lives by doing that. I mean, am I correct? I don't want to put words in Anthony's mouth, by the way, and I like him. Today I walk in, I hear I'm going to fire him. I'm not firing him. I think he's a wonderful guy.
Why did you tweet something that said fire Fauci?
Why did you fire Fauci?
I retweeted somebody. I don't know. They said fire. Doesn't matter.
Did you notice that when you retweeted it?
Yeah, I notice everything.
So you retweeted it even though it said time to fire
No,
Fauci?
no, that's somebody's opinion. All that is an opinion.
Read it and you elevated
No,
it.
I was called about that. I said, I'm not firing. In fact, if you ask your friends in the office, in the public relations office, I was immediately called upon that. And I said, no, I like him. I think he's terrific. Because this was a person's view. Not everybody's happy with Anthony. Not everybody's happy with everybody. But I will tell you, we have done a job the likes of which nobody's ever done. The mobilization, getting of equipment, all of the things we've done. Nobody's ever done a job like this. We have 50 governors and territories, by the way. People don't ever mention that. We have territories. We have 50 governors and territories. And many of those governors are Democrats. And they can't find anything to complain about. And honestly, many of them didn't do their jobs. I'll let you know someday. Let's see what happens. But I may let you know who's not doing their job. I can tell you the ones that are good, both Republican and Democrat, and the ones who don't know what they're doing. But we help some of the ones that don't know what they're doing. They should have had their own stockpiles. And now, if they want, we can build them stockpiles of ventilators. The hardest thing is a ventilator because it's expensive. It takes a while to get. We got them, and nobody believed we did. Now, many of the governors were asking for far too many. And we said they were asking for far too many. We talked, and we said, you said very strongly that they just don't need that many. You said they don't need that many beds, Deborah. So that's it. Steve, go ahead.
Dr. Fauci are on the same page.
Yeah, we have been from the beginning. I don't know what it is exactly, but if I put somebody's opinion up, I don't mind controversy. I think controversy is a good thing, not a bad thing. But I want it to be honest controversy. Now, when I got a call not very quickly, and nobody, saw that as being any big deal. They said, "How are you doing with Dr. Fauci?" I said, "I'm doing great." And I didn't talk to Dr. Fauci even until we just got here. Dr. Fauci asked one of the people if he could get up and speak. And he did.
So he said that
And
the
they totally
question-
misinterpreted him. I saw what they did.
He said the question was hypothetical, but what he was just acknowledging is that lives would have been saved if the mitigation practices were put into place earlier. That seems obvious. Do you not agree with that?
Here's the thing. Now, what he really is saying, though, but how could you have done it? Look, I just went over stats with you, right here, right here. How do you close it up? You have no deaths and no cases on January 11th. Doctor, would you recommend closing the United States of America? Oh, this must be terrible. How many cases do we have? None. How many deaths do we have? None. January 17th, go back another week. On January 17th, this is 10 days before I did a little bit less than 10 days, before I did the ban. I did a ban on China. You think that was easy? I then did a ban on Europe. And a lot of people said that was an incredible thing to do because you look at Spain, and by the way, we're doing very well because when you look at all of those flat graphs and you add it all up, the United States is very low, and per capita we're very low. We're doing very well. But how do you close up the United States of America? So on January 6th, no deaths. On January 11th, no deaths. And no cases. On January 17th, no cases, no deaths. I'm supposed to close up the United States of America when I have no cases.
You didn't close it down in the middle of March. Should you have closed it down earlier?
I
That's
closed
the
down
question.
from
It's not
China.
about January.
Excuse me. I closed it down from China. And by the way, some people think I should have waited longer and maybe ridden it out. I disagree with them, okay? But it was thought of. I mean, that was an alternative. There are a lot of people that would have said, let's write it out. Now, I'll give you the good news. If I would have done that, it would have been, I think, catastrophic. Because their numbers are, Anthony, 1.6 to 2.2 million people would have died if we tried to do that. And I did this last time. Cut it in half. Don't say 2.2 million. Cut it in more than half. Say 1 million people died. Well, that's much more than the Civil War. Cut it in half. Take the million and cut it in half. That's 500,000 people would have died. Now, that number we would have reached, okay? That would have been easy to reach if we did nothing. So we did the right thing, and our timing was very good. But here's the one thing, and you have to say this. When you ask me, why didn't you do this? How come when I did the ban on China and instituted some very tough things, how come Nancy Pelosi, a month later, is in Chinatown saying, let's all march, this is not going to happen? How come we have many of the experts from CNN and many other networks, if you call CNN a network, I don't personally, but we have CNN, we have many other places, and they're all saying, he doesn't need to do it, he doesn't need to do it. All I'm saying is this, how do you close down the greatest economy in the history of the world when on January 17th you have no cases and no death? When on January 21st you have one case and no death, one case, think of that. Now we're supposed to close down the country, but here's what happened. When on January 31st, I instituted the ban, Joe Biden went crazy. He said, you don't need the ban. He didn't go crazy. Like he didn't even know what the hell the ban was. So he didn't go crazy. But he did say, he did call me xenophobic. Wait a minute. He called me xenophobic. He called me a racist because he has since apologized and he said I did the right thing. So when you say, why didn't you this? Every Democrat thought I made a mistake when I did it. I saved tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of lives by putting
time
it.
that you bought, the argument is that you bought yourself some time. You didn't use it to prepare hospitals. You didn't use it to ramp up testing. Right now,
You're so
20 million
so
people
disgraceful.
are unemployed.
It's so
Tens of
disgraceful the way you said it.
thousands
Let
of
me just
Americans are
listen.
dead.
I
How
just
is
went
this
over
real?
it.
Or this ramp supposed to make people feel
I just went
confident
over
in
it.
an unprecedented crisis?
Nobody thought we should do it, and when I did it,
But what did you do with the time that you bought?
You know
The
we
month
did?
of February. That,
You
that
know what we
video
did?
was a gap.
What
The
do you
entire
do?
month of February.
What do you do when you have no case in the whole United States?
You had cases
When
in
you,
February.
excuse me, you reported it. 0 cases, 0 deaths on January 17th.
January, February, the entire
January,
month of
I said
February.
in
Your video
January.
has a complete gap.
On
Month of
January
February.
30th.
What did your administration do in February for the time that your travel ban got
A
you?
lot,
What?
a lot. And in fact, we'll give you a list. What we did, in fact, part of it was up there. We did a lot.
The video had a
Look,
gap.
look. You know you're a fake. You know that. Your whole network, the way you cover it, is fake. And most of you, and not all of you, but the people are wise to you. That's why you have a lower approval rating than you've ever had before, times probably 3. And when you ask me that question, let me ask you this: Why did Biden apologize? Why did he write a letter of apology?
Right now care
No,
about
that's
why
very
Joe Biden
important.
didn't apologize
Why
to
did the
you.
Democrats think that I acted too quickly? You know why? Because they really thought that I acted too quickly. We have done a great job. Now, I could have kept it open. And I could have done what some countries are doing. They're getting beat up pretty badly. I could have kept it open. I thought of keeping it open because nobody's ever heard of closing down a country, let alone the United States of America. But if I would have done that, we would have had hundreds of thousands of people that would right now be dead. We've done this right, and we really have done this right. The problem is the press doesn't cover it the way it should be. Go ahead. We're going to boom. I think it's going to go quickly. Our people want to get back to work, and I think there's a pent-up demand like there hasn't been in a long time. And that's why you see the stock market. I mean, to think that the stock market's at the level it is right now, with all that this world and this country has gone. And look at the European Union, how badly decimated they've been. Look at other countries. Look at China, by the way. I've seen the numbers. Look at China. Look at how these countries have been just decimated by this. And to think that the stock market is at this tremendously high number, not that much, you know, it was looking a little bleak for a while, but it hit a certain point and then started going up. I think that's a great tribute to the fact that there's a demand. Yeah.
Mr. President, thank you, sir. In regards to some of your tweets earlier today, and I think it was Steve's question, my question to you is what provision in the Constitution gives the President the power to open or close state economies? And then
Numerous provisions. We'll give you a legal brief if you want.
and then we'll be looking forward to that, sir. But following up, what happens if you say, for instance, we want states to reopen, but California or New York do not open? What would you do
Well, I
then?
think everybody wants to open. I mean,
Sorry, can I just ask one
I
other
guess,
thing on
you
the...
know, that could happen, but I don't think that would happen.
Just
States that have closed, ordered schools closed. It's been states that have ordered businesses like
That's
restaurants
because
and
I let
bars
that
closed.
happen. Because I would have preferred that. I let that happen. But if I wanted to, I could have closed it up. But I let that happen. And I like the way they've done it. And the 7 that remained really in sort of a semi-lockdown, if you look at those states, they've really done a very good job. They're very much different from a New York or from other places where they've been hit very hard.
You're prepared to take on states and say, I order you to open your schools, I order you to force
Go ahead,
kids to be
Liz.
able to go?
Yes, Mr. President. Following up on that, there are 2 consortiums of states today, California, Oregon, Washington on the West Coast, northeastern states, totally representing about 100 million people, who said they're going to cooperate and decide when to reopen.
Well, they can
those
decide,
states.
but,
Does that undermine what you're trying
No,
to do?
not at all. Let me just tell you, very simple. I'm going to put it very simply. The President of the United States has the authority to do what the President has the authority to do, which is very powerful. The President of the United States calls the shots. If we weren't here for the states, you would have had a problem in this country like you've never seen before. We were here to back them up, and we've more than backed them up. We did a job that nobody ever thought was possible. It's a decision for the President of the United States. Now, with that being said, we're going to work with the states because it's very important. You have local governments. They're pinpointed. It's really, you talk about, like a microchip. They're pinpointed. We have local government that hopefully will do a good job. And if they don't do a good job, I'd step in so fast. But no, they can't do anything without the approval of the President of the United States. Go ahead, Liz.
So if some states refuse to reopen and you order them to, the 10th Amendment to the Constitution says all powers that don't reside in the President or the Congress reside in the states. How do you overcome that?
Well, if some states refuse to open, I would like to see that person run for election. They're going to open. They're going to all open.
The ballot box.
I think that's something that's not going to happen. They want to open. They have to open. They have to get open. Every one of those states, the people want to go and they want to. Now, some are in a different situation. You have, I won't name states now, but I will over the next 2 or 3 days. I'm going to be very specific. But you have some states where this is not the kind of a problem that it is in New York or Louisiana or Michigan or other places that got hit very hard. Illinois got hit very hard. But all states want to open, and they want to open as soon as possible, but they want to open safely, and so do I. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, the French President Emmanuel Macron said that he will keep the shutdown in France till the middle of May. Does that mean that the U.S. will keep the ban
No,
on
France
flights
got hit
from
very
Europe?
hard. France got hit very hard, and again, he has to do what he has to do. He's a friend of mine. But France, Spain has just been decimated. You look at what's happened in Italy, it's a very well-known fact, what happened in Italy. No, they were hit very hard. OAN.
Thank you, Mr. President. Governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, has on Thursday signed an executive order banning the sale of non-essential goods. If other states
The sale of what?
non-essential goods, she has banned the sale of non-essential goods. Many are calling this draconian, unconstitutional. As president, do you think that if other states were to follow her example in the coming weeks, that the federal government should intervene?
Well, I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's very extreme, but she's doing it, and I think it's going to be over a long way before we have to start thinking about it too much. It is strong. It's a very strong position to take. But they're making a lot of progress in Michigan, so let's see how it all works.
What is the status of the funding for the World Health Organization?
We're going to be talking about that very soon. I'm getting a full report. I'm not happy with the World Health Organization. Not happy with the World Trade Organization either. We've been ripped off by everybody. We have, this country, for so many years, has been ripped off by everybody, whether it's a World Health or World Trade. They're like, I call them the Bobbsey twins. They look at our country. For years and years, we had people that did nothing about it. We're doing a lot about it. So we'll have a report, and we're also talking about the World Trade Organization. But we've made a lot of progress there. We're now winning cases for the first time because they know I'll leave if we don't get treated fairly. This country, our country, was at a point where we rarely, if ever, won the lawsuits within the World Trade Organization. But now we're winning a lot of them because they know I'm not playing games. We will pull out if we have to. We just won a $7 billion lawsuit, which was very nice.
Do you expect a decision this week on cutting funding for the WHO?
Yeah, I would say by the end of the week I'm going to make a decision on that. Yeah. Right now there's a lot of things happening.
On China, why are there no consequences for China for the misinformation
How do you know
that
there
they
are no
shared?
consequences?
We've been asked, and it
How do you
appeared
know
that
there are no
were no. What are the
consequences?
consequences, Mr. President,
I
for the
wouldn't tell you.
misinformation?
China will find out.
But
Why would I
people-
tell
but
you?
People are concerned that they stonewalled.
No, you started
that
off by
they
saying, why are there no
misinformation.
consequences?
You referenced this a few times, so following up on your response, why are there no
How do
consequences
you
for
know
China?
there are no
Because
consequences?
we asked you,
You're
and
going to
you
find
said- you
out.
said
I
that
wouldn't
did
tell you.
not.
You'd probably be the last person on earth I'd tell.
There
Go-
were-
And you remember you mentioned several weeks ago the Google was putting together that website
Yeah.
where that would handle the drive-in
Google
testing.
and Apple.
Have you
You
given
mean
up
Google
on
and Apple
have
combination?
have you
No.
moved past that?
A lot of
'Cause that-
people don't like it from the standpoint of constitutional rights. I mean, a lot of people don't like it, and some people think it's great. No, they are working on that, as I understand.
testing website. Remember you said a
Yeah, no, I know
website
that.
for
I know.
Google,
I
and,
know.
and it's only operating in I think 5 counties in California
Right.
right now.
No,
Is
Google's
that-
looking at it, but Google is also working with Apple on looking at something. We have the greatest companies in the world looking at things that in a year from now, everything that we're looking at now is going to be obsolete. That's how good it is. We have things happening that are unbelievable. I saw a presentation today that I can't talk about yet, but it's incredible. Plus, I think they're doing, Tony, I think they're doing very well on the vaccines. They're working hard on the vaccines, and I think you'll have an answer for vaccines. I believe that there's some great things coming out with respect to that. Now, you need a testing period, but you're going to have some great things. Please.
Sir, on the contact tracing that Google and Apple are doing, so different subject on the contact.
No, this is the Google and Apple. I don't know if it's a partnership or what, but they're working on some. They're working on more than one element. They're working on a couple of different things. Google and Apple. Google is also working on something, as you know, having to do with testing. I believe they're doing that in a singular fashion.
So my question is not about the drive-through testing website, not that.
Okay.
On Google and Apple's contact tracing, that they want to,
Yeah.
they've got this process now where they can put, contact tracing on your phone. If you opt in, you can be alerted if you've been in contact with someone with the coronavirus. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's an amazing thing, but a lot of people have some very big constitutional problems with it. You know that. It's an amazing thing. And it would be, actually, as you know, other countries are thinking about using something similar, but not as good.
Other countries are thinking about something.
I hear Singapore is. Singapore had a little bit of a setback because they had a break, you know that, but they'll take care of it. I know the folks in Singapore, they're doing a great job, and they're going to put it back very quickly. But Singapore and other countries are looking at other things, and some countries are doing other things.
You prefer that Americans use some other
Well, I don't want to
system?
get into that because we have a whole constitutional thing. We have more of a constitutional problem than a mechanical problem. But we will be making a determination on that. That's something we're going to be discussing with a lot of people over the next 4 weeks. That would be a very accurate way of doing it, but a lot of people have a problem with it. Yeah, please, go ahead.
A testing question, maybe for Dr. Fauci as well. Can you talk about where the antibody test is and how quickly
Well, it's
that
moving
will-
along. I think I can speak because I have to leave. Moving along quickly, moving along well. It's a test that's been going along for many, many years, except now we have very modern, very incredible versions of it. But that's moving along. The antibody test, moving along very well. Okay, any more COVID-19? COVID-19.
Just one last on this question of constitutionality. I'm just wondering what changed your view because
Nothing changed it. No, I know exactly what you're going to say. Nothing changed it. The fact that I want to rely on states, or maybe will, or maybe have, and the fact that we've gotten, that's one thing. The fact that I don't want to use the power is another thing. Look.
From the standpoint of the Constitution,
Yes, constitution.
you thought it should be up to the
Constitutionally,
governors.
you can look at constitutionally, you could look at federalism, you can look at it any different way. John, the fact that I don't want to exert my power is much different. We have the power. Does the federal government have the power? The federal government has absolute power. It has the power. As to whether or not I'll use that power, we'll see. I would rather, John, I would rather work with the states because I like going down to a local government. That's why with, I guess it's now 7 states, not 8, because South Carolina did, they went away from what we discussed the last time. So that's why I looked at the individual states. They're doing a very good job. They're really doing a very good job. I'd rather have them make the decision. Now, the fact that I'd rather have, that's fine, but I have the absolute right to do if I want to. I may not want to. We have a very good relationship. Now, we'll see what happens. If you notice, the few states you're talking about, they're all with Democrat governors. But if governors are doing a good job and they control it better, because you don't have somebody in Washington saying, set up a testing site in the parking lot of a Walmart. And we're in Washington and they're in a state that's very far away. That's really, it should be, and it should have always been, and I've always said it was. But the relationship we have now with the states and governors is very good. And we'll be announcing over the next very short period of time exactly what we're going to be doing. Okay, a couple more. Go ahead.
On coronavirus and Joe Biden, he's the presumptive Democratic nominee. Do you have any plans yet on when you'll start sharing, or when the White House will start sharing some of that information about the coronavirus, your presidential
Well, nobody's
data?
called about coronavirus from their standpoint. Look, they had the H1N1, which is swine flu, and that was a big failure. That was a tremendous failure. They had a lot of failures, and you take a look at the history, and 17,000 people died, and you talk about late. They were so late. They were late like it never even existed. That was a big problem. Caused a lot of other people a big problem too. So if Joe Biden would like a briefing, I'd certainly get him a briefing. I don't know what he'd do with it. Yeah, please.
Are Jared and Ivanka serving on the new task force, and how are you going to balance what?
No, they're not. No. Yes, go ahead, please.
I want to clarify. So, in an earlier conversation, there was a description of multiple different councils or task forces. Can you just explain exactly what the structure
Well, you
is and
have
who is going
Mike's
to be
task
on
force,
it?
which is the White House task force, which really brought us up to this point brilliantly, I must say. Dealt with governors all the way through, and I was on many of those calls, and every call got better and better and better. It was hostile at the beginning. By the time we finished, I mean, today's call was a very good call, very friendly call. I think everyone's online. And again, you don't have anybody driving you crazy saying they're not getting ventilators, they're not getting all of the different things. They need more beds. They have a lot of beds right now. And we always erred, I think it's important for you to know, we always erred on the sake of give them more, even when we didn't think. We didn't think New York needed the beds that they were asking for. We didn't think they needed the ventilators that they asked for. And we were right. Now, on ventilators, we're ready to march. I told you this. We're ready to march. We have 10,000 ventilators. We're ready to move them anywhere in the country where we need them, if we need them. We're also building a lot of ventilators, and that's going to be used at some point. I believe, we're going to have stockpiles, including state stockpiles, if they want to work out some kind of an arrangement with us. But we're also going to help other countries, whether it's Italy or Spain or France is having a big problem. They all desperately need, Germany too, they need ventilators. So we're going to have a lot of ventilators. We have a lot, you heard the numbers, we have a lot coming next week. Next week we have a tremendous amount coming. Okay, final question, Steve.
I'd ask about how the task force is going to be structured. Is it one?
No, then we have, in addition to that, we have a number of committees. We'll have a transportation committee. We're going to have a manufacturing committee. You'll see it tomorrow. We're also having a religious leaders committee. We have a great group of religious leaders. We're having committees with religious leaders. You've been seeing what's going on with the churches and all of that. And we're going to have a faith leaders committee. And so we're going to have a few committees. I'll call them committees. And then ultimately we're going to make decisions. So we're going to make decisions fairly quickly. And I think they're going to be the correct decision. I hope so, Steve.